Welcome to Greg Plays Games. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please subscribe if you like background conversation. That's kind of how I make these videos. That's how I watch videos. Normally, I watch videos while I'm doing something else. So that's kind of how I structure my videos. Today, I'm giving my thoughts / review, light discussion on Starfield. I do have a rating at the end if you really want a number. If you want a real kind of formal review, definitely go to someone like IGN, because that's not really what we have today. It's just kind of an informal discussion. And I want to start by saying that out of Bethesda games, I've really only played Skyrim the most. I'm just not really into the Fallout games. I've just never been able to get into them. I've tried to. I definitely will go back at some point and give them another go, just because of how much I've enjoyed Skyrim and also this game. So I wanted to disclose that, as well as the fact that I've probably played like 60 to 70 hours of Starfield. So definitely not the most time some people have played, but enough time to have completed the story, do a lot of side missions, explore, do some upgrades, definitely spend some time within the world of Starfield. And to start out, I definitely, if you're starting a new game, recommend focusing on the main story and kind of making a pretty good amount of progress in that before kind of going out to do side quests. Truthfully, I recommend going straight main story only. I might get into spoiler territory, but probably not. But I definitely want to mention that because I think it would improve the game experience, as well as maybe additional playthroughs for new players. But some of the things that I want to touch on that I like about Starfield are the fact that it's really just space Skyrim. If you've played Skyrim and enjoyed Skyrim, I would assume that you would also enjoy Starfield. It is very similar. You create your own character, create their name, you pick their dialogue and conversation, you control the paths that you go down, you control all the customization. So it is very much an RPG where you're creating every aspect of the character and making all of the choices too. And you also have even like very similar things to like the shouts in Skyrim. You have those in Starfield. I actually cannot remember what they're called off the top of my head, but you have the equivalent of those. Like it is essentially a reskin, and I mean that in a very good way, because I absolutely loved my time playing Skyrim. The other thing that I did enjoy the characters and the story. Some people have said that like they had some negative things, or that's what I've seen in reviews. Me personally, I enjoyed the story. I didn't really think too deep into it, though, I will say. I just kind of enjoyed the general plot of it, and I thought it was interesting. I thought it was mysterious, and I was curious to kind of learn more throughout the story, and I was very satisfied with the ending of the story too. And there as well were twists and turns along the way. Some of the decisions you make throughout the story affect certain characters and partners that you can have. So it is interesting, and your actions do carry some weight and some consequence. Maybe not to the degree of a game like The Witcher, where you're affecting entire cities, but there's a little bit of that going on in this game too. The next thing I want to discuss is just the kind of handcrafted planets. Of course, vast majority of the game is procedurally generated, meaning that it was artificial intelligence that kind of created these barren landscapes. And there's nothing wrong with the barren landscapes. That's kind of how space would be. So I understand. I think the way that you explore them is definitely could have been improved upon or marketed differently for sure. But for the most part, I don't mind it, and the reason is because all of the handcrafted worlds are very impressive, very detailed, fun to explore. I mean, my entire playtime of the game was pretty much all in these handcrafted worlds, so I didn't even really explore out too far into some of the barren planets, and the handcrafted planets are phenomenal. They are high quality. There's a ton of stuff to explore, a ton of NPCs to talk to, an unreal amount of side quests and story missions. So the one thing is for sure, you're not short on content with this game. So you're getting your money's worth, or if you have it on Game Pass, you're still getting your money's worth. And then I do feel like, too, the game does a really good job of making you feel like a space explorer, where you are out on your own at times. You can bring partners with you, but it just does a really good job of making you feel like you're truly in space. It also really does reminisce of Star Wars. Like, the only thing missing is lightsabers, and you would have probably the perfect Star Wars game if they just kind of renamed some of the stuff to the Force and added some lightsabers. Would have been sick. I'm sure that you can find mods that have all of that stuff. I'm playing on an Xbox, and mods just aren't available yet. Either that, or I just don't know how to get to them. But really, really great atmosphere in the game. And then I also want to say too that I feel like a lot of the mission rewards are worth doing. So I know I mentioned maybe focus on the main story, but there are definitely side quests worth doing. There is one side quest in particular. The name of it is something along the lines of the Mantis. It's essentially like a Batman story side quest, and it is super fun, super interesting, great rewards. I recommend that being, if you're gonna do some side quests, do that one, because I did the main story and ended up needing to do that side quest because one of the rewards is a ship, and it is one of the best ships you can get, like kind of just off rip. So I definitely recommend doing that side mission in addition to doing the main story first, because it'll make your playthrough fun, and it's also just really cool. Like, it's truly like very reminiscent of Batman. So if you're a Batman fan, I definitely recommend it. So those were the main things that I liked about the story. It really just was fun to jump in and be a space explorer. I thought that the game executed on that fairly well for the most part. I do want to jump into my dislikes of the game so far that I've experienced. And for starters, number one, the most annoying thing is you spend so much time in the menus navigating inventory and inventory management. I just don't know who the fuck likes doing this. I don't understand like why inventory limits are in all these Bethesda games. I do get it for games like Fallout, but for Starfield, it just is, it takes you out of the game, and you just spend so much time in that inventory menu, and that never really changes. Even as you upgrade your inventory capacity and your ship inventory capacity, you're just kind of constantly balancing this scale of, do I need to get rid of this cool ass weapon? Do I need to get rid of this armor that I was saving to sell? And it's just not fun, and it really at different times made me want to stop playing, and that's a really big bummer for me, just because of how fun the actual gameplay is. To be taken out of that to sift through inventory is just, it just fucking sucks. It's just not fun. It's not good game design in my opinion. And there is a lot of these little things where the next one, for example, is that a lot of the quests and side quests are just this constant back and forth from one planet back to the planet you left, and then back again, and it's perpetual. And the story missions are like it, and the side missions are like it, and you just end up spending so much time in these menus doing fast travel, looking for the next place to go, and it just really pulls you out of the atmosphere of the game, which is, when you're in the game playing it, it is so incredible. It is so well done, and I think that the art direction is really cool. There's this really interesting filter that you don't really see in any games, and I thought that was cool too. Like, it does have a phenomenal atmosphere, so to be pulled out of it to spend time sifting through inventories and fast traveling, it's a big bummer. And honestly, like, really, I could understand why people don't like the game because of that, and I could even see people who are just so sick of it that they don't want to play the game. And then that also kind of relates to another thing, which is the skill tree, which really I feel like it's hard to make progress in. Of course, it's, you're spending time in the menu for the skill tree too, but I think that's something that you want to do, of course. But it just takes so long to actually upgrade your player. I don't know if you can kind of undo any skill trees you've made, because you don't really realize that these choices you're making are permanent in the moment, and you don't necessarily know what you actually want to do with your character until it's probably too late. Like, you don't really understand what some of these stats mean or what they do until you've already invested all of these skill points into these other stats. So I would definitely recommend maybe watching a video on what skills you should put your points into, and maybe even like the best initial build to use as well, because you do kind of create like a base level of stats right at the start of the game. I did not do that, and I do feel like that was a mistake, and I do kind of regret not looking that up. I was playing it day one, so I just was kind of excited and jumped into it, and just kind of was like, I've played video games before, I can figure this out, but it's a little confusing for sure. Another thing is there are, of course, like Bethesda glitches, like most games that they've produced. My real experience was like some just getting stuck in load screens at different points, like hitting places where I shouldn't be, like some clipping stuff, a ton of crashes throughout my time with the game too, but nothing to the point where it like completely deterred me and made me want to uninstall the game, but definitely something to be aware of. Another thing, I do wish that you could kind of limit some of the quests that pop up, because when you step down on a new planet, especially like a handcrafted world with a city environment, you're going to be peppered with quests, and it is overwhelming, and you really don't know what to do at first, and it's just kind of, you're just like, I don't even know which one's the main quest for a while. So I kind of was a little overwhelmed with that, but at the end of the day, I think an overflow of content is a good thing. And I've touched on my last 2 points a little bit already, which are just that the planets can be barren once you get outside of those handcrafted worlds, and also too, the main story kind of takes a while to heat up, and I've kind of touched on that a little bit too. I think some of the big kind of disappointments of the game are the fact that there is no seamless space travel like in a game like No Man's Sky, or I've even heard of this new game, Star Citizen. It's not new, but it's new to me. Star Citizen is kind of like what Starfield really what I would want it to be, where you can get in your ship, leave the planet, and seamlessly go to another planet or another star system. I think that Bethesda didn't really do a good job of saying that they didn't really do a good job of communicating that the game didn't have that. It was kind of a big question, and they never said that they never claimed that they did it, but they also certainly never said that it wasn't going to be in the game. And that is a bummer, because it would have just made this game so much better, especially because for me the biggest negatives are the amount of time you spend in a menu for fast travel. It just really sucks. And then my last 2 kind of dislikes for the game, and then I'll give my kind of final thoughts and review score of the game. So my last 2 kind of negative points are just that there is not a good map system, which is unfathomable. Like, there's just no way. You can only just, like, you click a button, you click your left bumper, and then it shows you the path to follow, but there is no actual mapping system, and it just doesn't really make any sense, and you can get pretty lost in some of the cities. And then the last part is autosaves are not always going to be when you would anticipate them being. You kind of have to be on your save file game and hit a lot of quick saves, which if you play Bethesda games before, like Skyrim, you're probably used to doing this like before a big boss fight, or you get killed by a boss and then you go back and then you remember to do the quick save. There's a lot of that going on in this game, and it's just really disappointing in 2023 to have to think about saving a game, because I've lost a lot of progress from the game crashing, or it just me not thinking to quick save and then dying and it respawning me at a load point where I was really far away from that. So some of that stuff is a bummer, but my final conclusion on the game is that it really is a ton of fun when you're actively playing. I think that kind of makes it really hard to give it an appropriate score, because it is truly one of the most fun games I've played this year when I'm actively playing the game, but there is just so much that they could have improved upon, and I really do hope that mods will fix a lot of the stuff of the game, and I'm honestly kind of hoping too that I can get some Star Wars mods installed on the game on my Xbox to experience the game with the Star Wars universe as well. So all in all, I had a ton of fun with this game. It is one of my favorite games of the year so far. I give it a 9.3, which is a very high score. So far, it is my second highest rated game on the year. The only game ahead of it currently is Tears of the Kingdom. So it is definitely not my game of the year, but it is definitely worth playing, and I highly recommend, especially if you like Skyrim or Fallout or any of other Bethesda's games and are also into sci-fi. I've heard a lot of people say that it's kind of generic sci-fi. I don't care. I think it's awesome. I think the combat's fun. I haven't done a lot of the base building and some of that stuff, so I actually completely forgot to touch on some of that stuff, but there is so much to do in the game, and I think it'll only improve over time, and I would even love to see a version of this game with seamless space travel. I really don't know how possible that is, but we do know other games have done it, but this is a finished product all in all, so I just don't think that will happen with this game. Maybe in the future, about 20 years from now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you are playing Starfield and enjoyed it. There is so many good games coming out, so I would not be surprised if you're playing Spider-Man or Mario right now instead of Starfield, but it is absolutely worth your time and just as good as either of those games. Peace out, smooches, keep it stanky.